I made a mistake today by feigning deafness for a year. I therefore began an online course for a few subjects at the beginning of quarantine. To give you some background, I have never met these folks before, and these are not my classes at school or anything. The teacher is really quite good, and there are perhaps 10 other students in the class. The first 2 days proceed somewhat smoothly, but I make a huge mistake on the third day. We were midway through an hour-long physics lesson when I totally lost my train of thought and became sidetracked. This was already too much for me because I have a very short attention span. Since I did not know what the teacher was talking about when he called my name to answer his question, I attempted to look it up on Google. But because of my bad connection, it took a very long time to load, and the teacher was getting mad at me for typing and not answering. I was so freaked out that I texted him on the Google Meet chat and said that I had not received his inquiry since my laptop's microphone and audio were not working today and I was reading the subtitles, which take a long time to load. I blurted out, "I cannot actually hear, I have been reading the subtitles, and they take quite some time to load," in my utter panic. The instructor responded, "Oh, I am so sorry. I did not know you were deaf." I simply went along with it in my extreme fear and panic. As stupid as heck. In fact, everything went smoothly. I brought a hearing aid that I occasionally wore in class, and I typed out all of the responses that were transmitted to me. Since I lacked the dedication and focus to remember to include it in every lesson, I now say occasionally. When questioned about it, I explained to the students that I typically do not bother wearing my hearing aid because I do not hear very well even with it. They purchased it. I have gained the affection and admiration of every student in the class. Stella, a girl, claims that my smile is the most exquisite she has ever seen. I was actually having a great time with this, but like most of my stunts, it completely backfired. I was certain that I would get away with it when I made this foolish choice all those years ago. There was no way we would ever meet in person. However, with the lifting of the lockdown in my nation approximately a week ago, the instructor made the decision to meet in person. I watched films of deaf people attempting to figure out how to act all night long. To avoid having to attempt to speak like them, I made the decision to act as though I was equally absolutely stupid. I did not want to try because it looked really difficult. Anyway, everything goes smoothly when we meet up. Nobody finds out my secret or anything else. I spent the entire in-person appointment with Stella, who is really gorgeous. She is nice, witty, and intelligent. It is the nicest thing ever when we pass messages on tissue paper to one another. In my whole life, I have never been this attracted to anyone. However, Stella gives me a piece of tissue paper with a single, painful sentence on it near the end of the meeting. "Are you going to date me?" Oh no. In a panic, I tell her that I need some time to ponder, and she accepts it. She and I are scheduled to meet tomorrow. I cannot date her and act like I am deaf and stupid. Even if it is not conceivable, I do not want to let her go if I have to maintain this facade. The alternative is for me to tell her it was all a charade. The worst case situation is that she believes I am an NDH twist and I lose her nonetheless. The best case scenario is that I am extremely embarrassed and have a fantastic girlfriend. What should I do, in your opinion? This man cannot continue to live his life pretending to be deaf. What if this girl, Stella, is the one he marries? He will spend his entire life acting as though he is deaf. No matter what, that will eventually surface, and if he truly likes her as much as he claims to do, it is obvious. To escape that one embarrassing circumstance, you have to inform her and face the consequences of lying about being deaf. But why would anyone ever pretend to be deaf for this long, or any length of time, really, especially when it was for this long? That will likely be one of the most bizarre revelations ever. I wanted to follow this to see if there were any updates to see if he did, in fact, notify her in any way, and I was really interested to see what occurred. Fortunately, there were updates on this. He accepted the date and explained that she had texted me to let me know what time to pick her up. I have less time than I anticipated to make this decision because the date is actually tonight rather than tomorrow. I am like a never-ending catastrophe. In any case, I will be meeting her in 6 or 7 hours, so you should have an update then. Here's the latest information. You have all been waiting for this update. I just returned from Stella's date. In essence, I worked incredibly hard to get ready for the date. I found her white orchids after searching Google for the perfect flowers to express regret for your falsehoods. After that, I dressed to the nines and left. I was initially so nervous and anxious that I could not bring myself to tell her, but as we sat waiting for our order to arrive, I kind of snapped out of guilt and scribbled down into the notebook. She had brought a cute little notepad and 2 pencils for us to write notes in, which instantly melted me. What he wrote was this. The truth is that I am neither dumb nor deaf. There is no simple method to prove that. I know you are not deaf, but you are pretty dumb, she said. That is when I said aloud, WH. She smiled and went on to say that she had Googled me a long time ago because she thought I was so adorable and had come across my Instagram, which had pictures of me yelling and having a good time at concerts. She merely asked me out to see how long I could continue this. The entire time, she was playing with me. I apologized excessively and gave her the Reddit article to explain myself, even though I was feeling quite sad that she only wanted to date me for that reason. The best thing ever did. She thought the post was adorable, humorous, and cute, so I told her that I completely understood if she wanted to call it quits on the date right away, but she didn't. Although we are not formally dating or anything, we had a nice time and agreed to go out again on Wednesday of next week. She also informed me that she thinks I was a little offensive, especially with a hearing aid, even though she understands why I did what I did and that anxiety, especially social anxiety, is really difficult to manage. I would like to apologize to anyone I may have offended on this site, and she clarified to me why that was so disrespectful. I honestly did not mean to do that. In order for me to make amends, we are going to volunteer at the Center for Deaf Children on our second date. Many thanks to all of you. I may have just found a girlfriend thanks to all of you. When he said that he was preparing before this date, when he was actually discussing what kind of flowers to get for apologizing for lies, I thought he was going to say that I was preparing by watching videos of deaf people knowing how to act because that seemed to be the direction it was going in. However, I do wonder what exactly it was that gave it away to Stella that made it so obvious to her that he was not actually deaf, even though neither the teacher nor anyone else in the class seemed to know that. What would you do if you were Stella in this circumstance? Would you end the relationship there or would you give him another chance? Tell me below. Hub for Night Diaries. Are you upset with me because my friend is often making remarks about my breasts? My breasts are large. Unless I have surgery, there is nothing I can do to alter the size of these things because I currently weigh 52 kilograms. My resentment and guilt about my bust are a persistent problem because I am also really shy and come from a very traditional background. Aurora, a friend of mine, is one of those unrestrained free thinkers who expresses her opinions. In addition to being slender, her chest is proportionate to the rest of her physique. We work together, and I am often secretly envious of how well she wears blouses and tops, while I think my baggy, ill-fitting clothes make me appear very careless and unprofessional. Aurora has a habit of bringing up my breasts whenever we talk. Beginning with a compliment and frequently concluding with a mild slight. She persists even though she is aware that they are a physical characteristic that makes me uneasy. She will say things like, "My breasts look good now, but in a few years they will be down to my knees." Ha 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 ha. Or she will show me Reddit comments about people's preferred chest sizes, with the majority expressing how much they like a smaller bust over a huge. Or simply a reminder that guys and/or the workplace would never respect me due to my cartoon boobs. I have urged her to stop it a few times before, and I understand that she is just trying to have some light-hearted fun. We all have daily video conversations and meetings now that we work from home. We are not required to wear uniforms, we are free to dress however we choose. I was wearing a lighter, more exposing top than my typical baggy cover-ups because it was really hot a few days earlier. Aurora begins to express her opinions about my appearance during this video call in front of 6 other coworkers. "You look like you are in an adult movie, so please put those away. Seeing that first thing in the morning is not necessary. I felt ashamed. While one coworker laughed along, the others were uneasy. I almost started crying. I excused myself and walked out of the meeting. I went off on Aurora after she called me 30 minutes later to ask what was wrong. I was tired of her always making fun of my appearance, so I told her to screw herself. After ranting for 10 minutes, I hung up. Since then, Aurora has been absent due to illness, and we have not communicated. I want to call and apologize for my outburst, but I am not sure if I was too harsh. Was I the twist of the NDH? Indeed, expressing so during a work call is outright sexual harassment, as numerous others have noted. The fact that it was uttered at all is more important than who said it. She could likely go to her workplace's HR department and inform them of this if she so desired. And immediately after I had that notion, I noticed that she had actually updated many frequently asked questions. She began by saying, "I have contacted HR with my complaint. Aurora has made fun of my chest size in a number of my old emails and texts, including remarks and memes. My manager and I have the full backing of Lincoln and other coworkers. Although it will take some time for them to respond, I have no doubt that Aurora will be dealt with and that everything will be resolved." She goes on to explain that she weighs 52 kilograms altogether, not just her breasts, and that she is unable to reduce her weight any further in order to change the size of her bust. She has been working on her body image problems, which were exacerbated by her shyness and upbringing, but she will not have surgery. Out of all of this, the first thing that comes to mind is that Aurora might simply be jealous in some strange way. Perhaps she does not explicitly say that she wants this body type, but she may be envious of the attention it receives or believe that the OP is treated unfairly in a positive way, which Aurora dislikes, so she constantly brings it up to steer it in a different direction. I mean, that is just a theory based on the fact that, according to this post, she keeps bringing it up in verbal conversations as well as in text messages and other contexts. The OP has already asked her to stop talking about it, but Aurora keeps doing so something must be happening there that is driving her in that direction. Given everything, how would you respond in this circumstance, and is she the NDH twist? If I called off my wedding because my fiancé did not want my son to bring his boyfriend, would I be the NDH twist? I have been a single father since I was 18, and my kid was born when I was just 16. Financially, it was difficult for a while, but I always tried to give my son my best effort. My son, who is now 22 and attending college, works full-time at my gym, which I own today. I have always supported him and his identity since he came out to me when he was 15. Despite coming from an extremely traditional and devout family, my fiancée and I have been together for approximately 3 years, and she has never had any problems with my son. Nothing, at least, that she has ever told me. Since he was 18, my son has been dating his lover, and I have developed a close relationship with him. However, my fiancée recently informed me that she does not want her parents to even suspect that my son is gay, nor does she want the boyfriend of my son to attend the wedding. That they would completely lose it if they learned. I refused to ask my son to return to the closet, so this really got under my skin. What will happen when my son marries and starts his own family? Will they want to prevent him and his spouse from attending future family gatherings? It would be unjust to deny him a +1 because her family has a problem with gay people, even if he is my son and will be the best guy. She became quite upset with me when I told her this, accusing me of being overly emotional and self-centered. Knowing her desire for the ideal wedding will only last for just one day. I informed her that this was not acceptable and that I would not request that my son refrain from bringing his lover. I want his boyfriend to attend my wedding as well. I was given the silent treatment for a day after that, and no one has brought it up again. But it has left me with a really nasty taste in my mouth, and I am thinking of calling off the wedding. I do not wish to wed into a household that would treat my son unfairly. Despite my deep love for my fiancée, my son will always come first. My brother thought I was being the NDH twist when I told him. Because it was only for a single day and that my kid is an adult and probably will not interact with his step-grandparents very often going forward. The whole thing still makes me uneasy, and I am really considering calling off the wedding. If I did this, would I be the NDH twist? Am I being irrational? It appears that the fiancée is more worried about her family's opinion of the issue than she is about the feelings of the real son to whom you will have to break the news. She gave him the silent treatment since it almost appears like she is upset that the dad, the OP here, is saying something that makes perfect sense. He does, however, make a valid argument. What are they going to do if she is going to act this way about her son's current boyfriend? Keeping it a secret for the rest of their life after marriage? There is not much logic to it. Someone will eventually learn, and what will happen next? What is the big, large penalty? Are they going to force their divorce? It would seem that you would prefer to have this whole matter resolved before getting married. However, what would you do if you found yourself in this predicament? And is that an NDH twist or not? Telling my husband that I will not discipline my kid for using a different language in the house since it annoys his son is a Night Diaries hub twist. I am from India, as is my daughter Addison. Hindi is our mother tongue. She is now 12 years old. Since everyone was trying to get me remarried to a 61-year-old sleazebag because, well, how can a woman live or raise a child alone? Her father passed away when she was 6 years old, so I moved to the United States. When Addison was 6 years old, I began dating my current husband. He has 50% custody of Jack, his 6-year-old child. Addison, Jack, my spouse, Jack's mother, and I get along great. When we got married, the children were very content and had adapted quite well. We handled conflicts amicably whenever they emerged. Let us just say that it was quite easy to defuse these toy bombs after navigating the Indian family/drama minefield. When Addison is particularly thrilled, she often speaks in Hindi. She occasionally unknowingly switches to Hindi when speaking with me. This was not an issue. I would tell her to switch back to English if she did that in front of other people. Jack moved in with us full-time after his mother passed away a few months ago. We put Jack in therapy right away, and he already has a room. A week ago, while Addison and I were cooking and conversing in Hindi, Jack entered the room and broke down in tears. He told me that his inability to understand what we are saying makes him feel guilty. Addison began to cry and apologize after I gave him a hug, comforted him, and reassured him that we were not intentionally excluding him. It was absolutely heartbreaking all around. Addison has been trying hard to speak in English ever since, and I can tell that it makes Jack feel more comfortable. But yesterday, she became irate and began complaining to me in Hindi about her schoolwork. Jack and his spouse were in the kitchen when they heard it, while Jack and I were in the living room. Later that evening, my husband informed me that he believes we should consider disciplining her whenever she subconsciously uses Hindi until Jack feels better. I was appalled by this proposal. I have never played the "she is my daughter, not your" card, but if it comes to that, I am prepared to die for it. It is her first language, whether he likes it or not. It is simply unfair to expect her to speak in her second language at all times, especially when she is experiencing intense emotions. Particularly after she is actually trying to help Jack feel more at ease. It is practically a form of punishment for her Indian origin. Naturally, this is a major source of contention between my husband and I believe that treating Addison in this way, even for a short time, is unfair. He believes that although Jack is grieving over his mother, Addison and I are needlessly making him feel worse when we can try to stop it. Here, we are both conflicted. In this case, who is the NDH twist? Jack seems to have the ideal opportunity to learn Hindi with this. He has the opportunity to live with two people who speak a language he could pick up. However, it is awful to punish a 12-year-old daughter for using her native tongue. Many individuals, in my opinion, are probably unaware of what it is like to acquire a second language and be required to speak it constantly. She must even say it in her own house, I am telling you. She cannot find a place of refuge where she can just use the language that she feels most at ease in. That is not very logical. Since Addison is already making the effort to do this, I believe it is truly upsetting Jack. They can simply remind her. She will most likely comply if you simply remind her. This does not seem like something that even remotely warrants any sort of punishment, and I am not sure what kind of punishment they had in mind for her. However, please share your thoughts with me. What would you do if you were in this circumstance? Is it an NDH twist or not?